I didn't grow up in a household or in a family where the ownership of firearms was really a big deal or anything that really was on our radar. We weren't against it, just wasn't something that was around us. I didn't really have a concept of what gun ownership looked like or how you even acquired a firearm, anything like that. It wasn't until I got older and got married that I was introduced to my wife's family now, who they all are gun owners. They grew up with firearms. You know, my in-laws grew up with property and land and small ranches and farms, and you could imagine firearm ownership is pretty common in that kind of environment. And the only thing that bothered me was not the firearms being around me or being exposed to them. It was my inability to use any of them, not knowing how to handle them, how they worked mechanically, how to check if one is even loaded, unloaded. What if I'm the one that has to answer the call for whatever reason and there's a gun laying around and I have to use it? Don't know how. And that bothered me. So after we got married, I realized, you know what, let me at least take a firearms course of some kind. And I started with a pistol, handgun basics, safety class. And that opened up the entire world of firearm ownership. I didn't know you could get CCWs and, you know, the variety of firearms that civilians could own. I really was brand new to all of this. And so as I kind of went down that rabbit hole, started training with firearms, got my CCW, I realized, hey, now that I have a CCW, and now that I'm carrying a gun legally, responsibly, my only option to defend myself, not that I had much before owning a CCW, is all or nothing. It's 0 to 100. Either I use my CCW or I don't. And I have nothing in between. And I didn't really like that. I wasn't a fan of that. It bothered me that I had no fighting skills, no grappling skills. Do I need to defend myself or not? Well, my only option is a CCW if I do have to. I didn't like that. So like we all do, started going down the rabbit hole, right, of scenarios where you would actually use your firearm to defend yourself, and you start getting into the gun tuber space, and that was a whole new exposure to me of content online that I didn't know existed. And I think it was a hard to hurt video. I'll link it in the description or in a pinned comment that I came across that really stated the importance of knowing how to grapple, especially if you're going to be a CCW owner, especially going to carry a gun around with you for self-defense. And it made a lot of sense to me. And it kind of filled in that gap of, if I can only go from 0 to 100, can I have anything in between? Sure, you can carry a knife, you can carry pepper spray, things like that. But what if for whatever reason you don't have any of that? Now I'm back to square one. Can't defend myself reasonably. No fighting skills, no grappling skills. And I didn't like that also. Some of you guys might fall into like a Muay Thai community and find interest in that. I'm 37. I'm not young, but I'm not old. I decided I'd rather not get bonked in the head more than I needed to. And I started learning more about Jiu Jitsu. Obviously, it's in the culture. More people are into it now. And I went on Reddit, just in my county, dropped a question, hey, recommendations on Jiu Jitsu gyms that are probably family owned, ideally. Wanted something smaller, more of a community. Honestly, I was intimidated, so somewhere that they would be nice to me. And one was recommended to me in my area, so the same one I go to now. This was about 3 years ago, just about, and I fell in love with it. I quickly realized that as athletic as I thought I was, I'm a cyclist, love riding bikes, but that was the extent of my physical activity. I realized how vulnerable I was on the first class that I did. The gym I go to offers a 7-day trial for folks that are, you know, exploring it, maybe considering that gym. And I did the 7-day trial, took some of the fundamental classes, and was very disappointed with how much I underperformed. Which any of you that have done any kind of grappling, combat sports, it's really humbling. I'm sure you've had the same experience. And I realized truly how vulnerable I was. You can get this false sense of confidence that, hey, I'm young, I'm reasonably fit, not the strongest, not the weakest. Now I have a CCW. In my case, didn't like that was my only option. Again, 0 to 100, didn't like that. But I never really understood how vulnerable I truly was without having any kind of combat experience. Some people grow up doing combat sports when they're younger. I didn't. I fell in love with it. It really improved my life. It improved my health. I'm 20 pounds lighter. The conclusion I really came to was an understanding of personal responsibility and self-control. You think that as you get older, you kind of start to solve for that or understand what self-control and emotional control really looks like. But it's not until you're in really stressful situations and are tested, even if it's in a simulated environment like a Jiu Jitsu gym, for example, where you're really under pressure and you're getting smashed on by someone way bigger or even someone smaller who you think you should be able to take. I realized how vulnerable I was, and it was very humbling for me. But it was exactly what I needed to fill in that gap from the 0 to 100 response level that I didn't like, that I had at my disposal. But what was really insightful was just the level of responsibility that it instilled on me, and the need to really be in control of yourself and your emotions. And it's surprising how it's improved other areas of my life too, not just physically and emotionally, but with my business, how I interact with people, the things that bother me and don't bother me anymore, mainly don't bother me anymore. Not in a cynical way, just the things that don't really matter. You match your responses to scenarios a lot better. But the net result really has been an overall improvement to my balance of how I respond to people, events, scenarios. So much is out of your control, but what really defines your outcomes in a lot of cases is how you respond to things. So, little philosophical, little touchy-feely, as they say, but maybe some of you, it'll resonate with some of you. Everyone's journey is different. Just wanted to share a little personal anecdote of growth I've experienced over the last few years and what's contributed to that, and wishing you guys a lot of the same growth and personal improvement and maturity and growing in your methods of response to challenging situations. But I just wanted to share that, and now I'm off to the gym.